Alright, welcome to the Lua introduction here for the Roblox course, and in this lecture we're going to talk about variable types, but first of all we're going to create our own project here. So if you've never used Roblox Studio before, this is probably something that you're going to see first time you open it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to select baseplate here, so make sure you're in new, all templates, and then baseplate. And this will open a new baseplate, so a new project for us. And this might look a little different that it looks for you. So we have the window here where we can actually see what is in the game. We have an output here, properties, and the explorer. Now I'm just gonna give a quick overview here. So if this looks different to you, you can actually enable and disable up here in view. You can actually enable and disable certain windows. The three main windows that we're gonna need is the output, the explorer, and then one more thing here where we actually see our scripts that we're gonna write. So those are the three things that we need, and the rest right now we can completely ignore. So to start, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the right here, and we're going to create our first script, and we're going to do this in the server script service right here, this one. And we're just going to select this, then we're going to click the little plus icon, and we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff that we can actually put in here. But what we want to create is a new script. So we're just going to click script, and it immediately opens. Now inside of here, we can actually zoom in by holding control and then zooming with the mouse wheel, right? And let's make it nice and big so you can actually see something. And as we can see, something is already written in here. Now the first thing, however, that we're going to do is we're going to rename this script. So on the Explorer to the right, you can click the F2 key, or you can right-click and then go to rename here. And we're going to call this variable types, because this is the lecture about variable types. And as you can see, there's already something written in here. Now, to start this script, we actually need to go up here, so you can see the script menu is open up here. And we actually want to go to this little arrow here, and then do run instead of play, because if we hit play, then the game starts, but we only want to run the scripts and not necessarily have the game run, at least in this Lua introduction. So let's just click run and see what happens. So we click run, and as you can see here, hello world was just printed out. We can also zoom into this output, by the way. So this is probably the best. And let's stop that up here. And as you can see in the home, you can also run the script. But right now, that's basically all you need to know about Roblox Studio. First of all, we're going to go through the Lua introduction, and then we're going to look at the functions and functionality that we can use for Roblox. Now, Lua, what is Lua? Well, the question is, so this here, Roblox, is created in a language called Lua U. So this is very similar to Lua. This is basically Lua 5.1, right? With a few different additions. And this is basically all the basic knowledge that you need to know. This is Lua U. There are two resources on here as well. One for the Lua 5.1 manual, where everything is explained once again in even greater detail than we're going to go through this Lua introduction. And then there's also a short little introduction to Lua U as a resource. And that highlights some of the differences between Lua U and the normal Lua versions, right? Now, what is this first lecture about? This first lecture is about variable types. And the question becomes, well, what are variable types? What are variables? Well, variables are basically, they are data types in which we can store some information, right? So let's think about this. We might have a variable x, and what we want to save into that is 10. Then what we write is x, and then we write an equal sign, and then 10. Now this inside of here is of course a number in this point. So this would be a number, right? So let's write numbers, because there are different types of numbers. So if you've already programmed in another language before, then this might be familiar to you. This is what we would call integers. In Lua, however, they are all the same number type. So in this case, this is a number type, an integer without any decimal point. And now we can also, for example, write 10.5, right? And this would be a float. This is something that, like I said, if you've programmed in other languages, in this case, these would be the same types. Really, there's not much difference there, because Lua, also for the people who have programmed in another language before, of course, it's not a strongly typed language. So we actually don't have to specify what type of variable it is. We just have to write the variable name, then an equal sign, and then whatever we assign to that variable. Right, so those are the numbers. There is also something which represents the absence of any value at all. So we can just take the x that we have done before and assign it a new value, and we're going to set it nil. So this is basically the null, right? So this represents the absence of any value, right? Or also null in other programming languages. This would be a null. In Lua, this is a nil, and this simply says there is nothing in here. So it's not 0, it's nothing. This represents an absence of any value. Sometimes a little hard to wrap your head around, but going forward, this will get clearer with time, yes. So there's also another thing that is going to be a Boolean. So a Boolean value basically simply is true or false. And that's all it stores. So a 1 or a 0 or true or false. So for example, you could say is good course, good course, and then hopefully that would be true. And inside of a game, you could imagine maybe there is a Boolean value that's called is grounded. And is grounded might be true as long as you walk on the floor. But then when you jump, this would get turned to false, so that you can't jump while in midair, and as soon as you touch the ground again, this would be turned into true. So this would be an example of a Boolean value, and in sort of a way you can use it. Now those are 3 variable types right now, and then we also look at a 4th, and that's going to be the strings. And strings are basically characters or sentences. So we can have words, for example, a variable called words. Inside of it, we were going to write hello world. Now, we've already seen this hello world before, but this time it's actually inside of a variable. To initialize these strings, we actually encase them with quotation marks, and everything inside of it is then counted as a string. It might be the case that you actually want many, many words, next to each other, and then what you can do is you can type 2 of these brackets, and then you can go, for example, a little further down and write another 2 of these brackets, and then everything inside of here is going to be. So this can be a very, very long string, right? So this can be a very long, well, even a text or something like that. That is inside of these brackets now. Yeah, and those are the basic types that I wanted to show. There are some more advanced types that we're going to talk about in later lectures. But in this case, with these basic types, we can actually already look at a few things that we can do. And from here, we can actually go forward with the Lua introduction. So yeah, overall, that would be it. If there are any questions, of course, always feel free to ask, and I'll be sure to respond. And yeah.